Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the stream. I'm Grethel. Hi, how are you? I guess I should start off by saying, wow, look at the new garage. This is pretty awesome. New, modern. It's got some sort of a, well, I'm sure they can't use a Humvee in there, but yeah, wow, how cool is this? Lately, I wanted to talk about the differences that have been that I've been seeing. I'll just jump into a game really quickly. I'll leave it in PvP, show you kind of what we're up against. 5. Yeah, that's 5 people total in the queue for PvP. So yeah, that's not going to work. So what's changed? Whoops. What's changed lately is the new game mode, Global Operations. Now, clearly they only have one map. I've seen a couple of other videos where people have posted something saying that it's only one. They've got to hurry and they've got to try and do other things. But I agree with that assessment. But I also agree with the fact that Obsidian took a long enough time to make a map that, well, although I can't use the word perfect. It's not a perfect map, but it is a map that is very well designed, open enough, and usable by every single class. There's sparse enough vegetation to not really hide artillery, although that's not really this game mechanic. But yeah, it's a really good, well-designed map. So if we have to wait a little bit longer for a well-designed map, I'm going to kind of squirrel moment here. That the welding sparks from back behind that curtain are pretty cool. You get to see the reflection. Anyway, yeah, it's a decent map. And if I have to wait a little bit longer, or if we have to wait a little bit longer while we hone our skills and work our way up to getting other tanks, well then I'm ready and willing to wait. We don't need we don't need maps that just that don't work for us, that are just irritating, that are not the right size, that they have to end up having to make changes to later on, that are one-sided, and all of the other stuff that the most popular tank game has to deal with. We don't need to deal with that here. So anyway, if you guys want to jump on, leave some comments in the chat as to what you'd like me to play. I'm going to continue to work up through. I think I'm going to work up through the BMD line today. I've worked my way through to the Stinger 2, excuse me, the Stingray 2, and I'm most of the way to my Tier 8 XMB. So I may revert to that and go to that here pretty quickly. This is a beast of a tank if played correctly. Well, let me just show you something. At least on this tank here. Excuse me. Run down here. Go up here and look at the details. We get the details up on the screen. This is a light tank. Its mobility is fantastic. Its gun is very punchy. It's got a decent gun. 411 millimeters of penetration with 438 damage, average damage for each shot. Yeah, that's right. The damage per minute is over 4,000, 4,095 to be exact. But this is the biggest thing. Now, you don't get this in the very beginning, but you see this hull? Look at the front. 335. Someone tries to shoot you right through here in the front. You see all this applique armor that they've added here? The front of this thing is a trolley beast. Sometimes they can overmatch here and here on the top of the tank, but not very often. Not in the tiers that I've been playing. Of course, if they get your side, 45 millimeters. If they get your rear, 20 millimeters. You're just done. You're going to take that full. You're going to take the full brunt of that shot, and there's nothing you can do about it. But right here, especially at about this angle, even if they face hug you and they get right in on that tank, 335. That's enormous. With the sloping that's here, the applique armor, and everything that's on the very front of this, they could try and shoot you here and here, but it's just, like I said, it's trolley. They just bounce quite a bit because of because of the steep angle of this tank. I'm usually top 5 damage every time I play this tank, and you know, pretty soon the XM8 is going to take its place, and it's about the same, but it also, you know, this is kind of what it starts with. Let me point these two things out. We'll just stick this over here like this for you to see. But it starts out with 40, and then you add basically, you know, almost 300 millimeters of potential armor onto the front of this thing with the applique armor, so it makes a big difference. But let me show you one of the other really cool things about this patch that we've got is we can go to the dealer. This one is Shishkin. We go straight to the XM8. I'm going to right click this, and yeah, that's right, we've got test drive. I can simply preview it in the shop if I want to. There it is, vanilla, you know, right out of the box. You can see that it's got a much taller turret, doesn't have that really super duper slopey end on it. That part right there is pretty flat and is going to take a ton of damage. On this line, by the way, I will point out something else, but it has, well, let's just test drive it. I'll show you. It has applique armor as well. So the armor that we'll be able to add to this is just as, well, it's not just as incredible as the Stingray, but because the main armor here is about the same. But let me show you one of the big differences, or one of the sticking points with the Stingray line that you've really got to think about. You can see that the back end, as soon as this loads, the back end of the tank is quite a bit higher than the front, and it does change things. So welcome to Russia. This is their tank testing facility. Wow, this turret is wicked fast. But you can see towards the very end of the tank here, it increases, the slope of the rear increases quite a bit. Oh, that's kind of cool. We're on video. Look, Ma, no hands. The back of the tank is quite a bit higher, which, if you watch the reticle, boink, bounces it up quite a bit. You do not have the same. There you go. See that difference right there? That's the key. It kind of helps you, in a sense, it kind of helps you keep the front, which on this tank is trolly and bouncy, towards your enemy, because if you go back in the rear, you're not going to hit anything. If I zoom in on this, you can see that that's as low as I can get on the rear. If I continue to go around, yes, it's enough to shoot something, oh, I don't know, probably 10 or 15 meters away, but if they're right on top of you, you're going to have a hard time hitting them in the body of the tank. You'll have nothing but you know, turret shots, and you know, all you have to do is angle just a wee bit more, and boom, now you've got them. Now you're down below that deck, and you've got some pretty good shots on their hull. So that's what I've noticed about this tank. Kind of a cool little tank, really fast turrets, way punchy guns. Still on the screen here.
Tank. Ammo up.
So I take this thing out for a spin. Clearly, here's Artie. I have no problem hitting that, doing plenty of damage wherever we're going to hit it. Kind of a nice place for Artie to be because it's punch you right in the rear. So the best thing, lighter targets, is the heat. You can see that we were doing an average of 430, 435, 438. This one's going to be doing a lot more than that. But so there's another Stingray, a Warrior, and then an M1 Abrams. These are all light skin tanks. We're going to hit those. That one was for 557. Let's go find some harder stuff to hit. Let's go find some. Turns a little bit better than the other tanks as well, than the Stingray 2 as well. Wowzers, plenty of tanks. So here's the Leopard. You can see, even with our heat, when we're zoomed in and whatnot, we're not going to penetrate anything. I mean, we're going to bounce. We're going to, you know, this is kind of a gray area. We've got a little bit of, we might be able to do something here. We'll probably hit them in the optics, but it's all pretty much red. We're not going to do much. You'll be able to track the daylights out of them, take them out that way. The Challenger. Wow, plenty of tanks to choose from. I've clearly never played this mode. Now the Challenger's basically the same way. All the applique armor and everything that's on it, you're going to be hard pressed. I mean, there might be one or two spots that you can see right there. We might be able to do a little bit of damage with the heat, but you know, not very reliably. So clearly, this tank, if you're face hugging someone, you're turning back around, you're actually going to get into their face. They better have enough penetration to penetrate this little turret. But as long as I'm kind of facing and using the traverse speed of this tank, something along like this, I've found them to be really trolly. It's quite fun. The people don't tend to know where to shoot this thing. So clearly, in the back here, we're gonna tag this. So the Leopard, you're gonna be able to hit. Even in the back of the turret, we're gonna be able to. Anyway, we'll be able to take it out and hit him for the full amount of damage. 589 at that time. That was a good roll. So use the mobility, use the traverse to get around behind your targets. The traverse on this thing is silly. Oh, there's an M8 Thunderbolt. Suffers from the exact same thing. Oh, and there's the applique armor. So I think on this one we can actually see what it looks like when we've got the applique. So clearly they add patches and pieces to the outside. So am I full of crap? Yeah, I think I'm full of crap. That's not the same one. Anyway, never mind. Abrams, we're going to run into the same thing. I mean, pretty much nothing from the front, but you know, I mean, even a regular main battle tank has a problem with these things from the front. Now, if I switch over to our APCR or our Sabot, still the same issues. Might have a little bit better chance hitting them in the tracks, taking them out, doing a few other things, but even lower plate, we're not gonna be doing much with the vanilla tank. So stick with your heat, stick with your mobility, get around behind these guys, keep this thing moving around, keep circling, keep doing this thing with them. Try and make sure that you're gonna get done. Remember, your ass end is gonna throw your barrel up really high. That was something that it took a while for me to learn, but that was a miss. Hey, pull the trigger, Junior. Sorry. Yeah, so another Thunderbolt, PZH, Plumeria, or some heavier tanks. Let's go check out some other heavier tanks so we can look at the BMD4. Clearly, the Challenger, Leopard. We're not gonna find anything heavier, I don't believe. So, this is the end of the road. Clearly, these two, the Abrams and the Challenger, and the
identify target.
the heaviest ones. So we've got a Leopard A2 here as well, and another M1A2 Abrams. All hull down. You can see you're gonna have to get up behind them, but even if you get up behind them, we're gonna be able to hit them pretty good. There's 596. That was a heck of a roll. So anyway, that's how you're gonna be playing this tank, trying to get behind them. Yeah, let's jump back in. I'll get onto the main stream here, and we'll work our way to getting this cool little tank. I like the damage that this little guy's given us, and the mobility is just is fantastic. So yeah, kind of cool. How do you guys like the new test facility? Is this pretty great or what? I mean, that's pretty cool. All the people in the stands can sit here and cheer you on. All your girlfriends or boyfriends or whatever you have. Yay, just don't shoot them. And there we are, back to the garage. So, XM8, great line. I enjoy it. You have to enjoy the light tank mechanics. A few of the other things that I put on it, the consumables and the personnel and such. Here's the overview of the tank after I've got all of the modules researched and upgraded it as far as I have. You know, you've got a universal retrofit slot, which well, I'll show you. You get your Mark III hull reinforcements, which actually help, but you need to remember a few things about this tank. The mobility and the turning radius is kind of crappy, so I use this commander here. She's got better vision range, so I'm getting a lot of spots. There's been some games where I've had upwards of 13,000 damage done. Assistance damage done. So literally me just spotting and moving and keeping the targets lit for the heavies and for the tank destroyers and everything else really makes a big difference. Aiming speed is increased, the camel factor by 10. But this is the one that I've actually elected for, which is the base capture of 25%. And in the global ops mode, that makes well, it makes a gigantic difference. It makes a really big difference. To what you're doing. So, well, the whole objective is to cap each of the each of the areas, hold as many of those areas in each of the phases as you can. There's 3 different phases, and you'll soon see that. So this is another feature as well. If you have an epic game or a good game, or you land some more of these insignias, you can burn them up. They're good for one game. You know, all the way up to 25%, and in some cases a 50% platinum, you know, global reputation insignia. Oh, that's something new, the little shiny sparklies that are on it. One match gives you 50% global rep. You can really get a bunch of these and take a fresh, you know, rookie crew member or tank commander and, you know, pump them up in a big hurry if you can get some of these commander experience points. But here's the most important thing for me, and this is the way that I play the Stingray 2. Stingray 2, you're going to take the shots. You don't have any choice. Most of the time you're flying around, even if they make a glancing blow or they make a lucky shot, you're going to take the hits. I have found that you benefit the most from simply having hit points. In the global ops mode, you have repair points. Now the repair points have a certain 60-second cooldown and how much they repair you and restock your tank, but it gives you a chance to get back to those and actually get a little bit more hit points back on your tank, get back out, start viewing and start slamming the enemies with this great gun. So air induction cleaner, the acceleration and the hull traverse on this tank on the Stingray 2 is a must. The hull traverse for a light tank is actually quite poor per second. So you know that's something you really kind of have to think about and worry about. There's your hull traverse, 49.07 degrees per second at a maximum speed of 70, and you can see that some of the others may not be. This is troublesome because it's not going to show me. The hull traverse right now is 45.9, and this one actually looks better, but it looks better because I've actually I've got the air induction cleaners on it. So this is a vanilla tank, brand new, starting out of the box, no upgrades at all, and this is the upgraded. And currently Armored Warfare, I don't know or don't believe has a way to be able to compare tank for tank, by removing the benefits or removing the upgrades that I've got on the Stingray 2 and comparing it to the XM8. So anyway, there it is. We'll continue to go over a few things, but it's kind of hard to read these after everything is done. Consumables, clearly I have just the regular, the things that you're going to want. Clearly, if you're playing a high, a pretty high stakes game or something like that, I would run synthetic oil to give yourself a maximum speed increase. You can even go with the standard 5 to 10%, but also med kits, energy drinks are pretty darn good. They give you 5% crew stats. Protein bars are half of that, but so basically you've got a 5 and a 10% boost to maximum speed to help you out. Ammo, I always have the best available. Like I said, for heat, this heat's penetration at 361 seems to solve most everything. The 411 is quite a bit better. So if all you've got are front-end shots on something that's hulled down, or that's hulled down, or something else like that, that's also really good. I find that the HEP actually does quite a bit of module damage. The plastics, even if you're just shooting at the top of a T80 or a T82 or a Type 80, Type 90, you're going to do some damage. It's not much, but you're going to rip through their modules in a hurry. And so I only keep 4 or 5 around, kind of as a cap reset, and also as a, just a griefer. I mean, if they're looking at you and they're sitting there watching you, and you know that your friends are going to go around and flank that tank, and you can keep their attention by just keep popping shots into the front of their turret, even though you're not doing very much damage, but you're pissing them off because you're ripping through every module they've got. Well, you've given yourself enough time for your friends to circle back around, flank them, and shoot them in the backside, and take them out of the game. So. Yeah, we'll look a little bit further into the to the dealers and the details here, because you can actually look at those as you're going through it. But I clearly have not gone along the BMP line. But I'm telling you what, these BMP3s, BMP3Ms, and then I think Shishkin has, these BMDs. Holy cow! The damage per minute doesn't really reflect what these things can do in game. This is in my opinion, the BMD4 is actually a pretty OP tank at the moment. Like I said, it's a pretty OP tank. It's really low profile, autoloader gun. Everybody sits down low. Clearly, you have no hope of ever bouncing a shot or anything on the rear end of these things, but on the front end, it's surprisingly bouncy. It's got this spaced armor that's kind of right over the front here. Trust me, it's a light, maneuverable tank. You're not gonna survive, punch for punch standing against anything else. But this gun right here fires very fast. It fires HE that penetrates quite a bit, and it. Well, look at the details here. Once you upgrade to the top gun, this damage is going to be quite a bit more. Show you the upgrades here in addition to this, but you've got the different missiles. You've got the different rounds that the thing is going to come up with. You'll be able to upgrade those. It gives you enhanced shell materials, so you're actually going to do more damage per shot. But it's deceivingly simple on paper, and yet this tank is. I've watched a BMD4 driver do 13 to 14K damage in this tank. Just noticed something. We're not going to get very many with one player in the queue. We're not going anywhere with Global Ops. I'm going to bounce out of this, and we're going to change the mode. Currently, this is exactly what the problem is with Armored Warfare. We just don't have enough people playing the game. But I'm hoping that with guys like me streaming and with everybody else, hey, welcome everyone. I see there's 2 of you. Woo! Thanks for joining me. I was just going over some specifications on some light tanks and why I prefer these. This line is pretty good. I was actually looking at the BMP4 and talking about how powerful it is in the game. It's surprisingly, it's pretty startling. Because it uses HE, you're doing damage with every shot, and 8-second reload. It's got one heck of a clip, and this damage per minute will go up drastically as you've upgraded it. Like I said before, I've seen BMD4s do upwards of 13K damage in a game. They're quite powerful. Now the BMP is not the same type of thing, but you can see that they definitely have a little bit more potential for damage. The BMP3M is no slouch. This is another tank that's just kind of one of those little sleepers that not a lot of people really pay attention to. The damage is 431 per round, with a potential of 32, but you've got to get in the right place. It doesn't have very much. It's kind of a punchy gun, but it doesn't have just absolute thunderous power. So anyway, we'll keep hanging out in queue here. Sometimes it takes upwards of 3 minutes to play these games when there's not a whole lot of people on. But gosh, if you had a line to go down and you enjoy the light tanks, those would be the ones that I would pick. I like the Shishkin line. Clearly, I've gone most of the way down through the Stingrays. I'm just about there to the XM8. If I can get some games, we'll be moving on to that, and then eventually we'll be moving on to something that I'm really intrigued by, because this tank looks just incredible. I mean, look at all the angles, and it's almost like it's made out of you know, the anti-radar signature stuff. I mean, look at that thing. What a it's just so radical looking, you know. I mean, it can anyway, that looks like a launcher. Let me pull this up in the garage here, and we can actually look at the PLO1 and see what see what it comes up with. See what we can put on the thing. Armor retrofit. It's got some more advanced composite armor. Wow, you can put more armor on that thing. Okay, that's pretty cool. Better suspension, improved sprockets. You've got a mobility buff that you can put on it. Fire suppression system, sat navigation, which gives us a better view range. Yeah, that'll be a fun little tank. If it's as bouncy as I think it will be, because I mean, my goodness, the angles on this thing are pretty radical. I mean, I don't think you're going to bounce anything back here. I mean, well, no, I guess you could. Boy, look at that sloping on that. That's, kind of cool. Has anybody ever seen somebody play one of these? I don't think I've ever seen it on the battlefield. Maybe that's what I'm working towards. We'll give it a whirl and see what it turns out to be. I'm not so sure if you can test drive while you're waiting in queue. No, doesn't look like you can. Clearly. Well, it's taking you out of it. So anyway, guys, if you've got anything you want to see me try and play, or questions or anything, post them in the comments. I think I'm just streaming on YouTube this morning. I'm not doing the Twitch thing yet. So anyway, leave some comments. Let me know what you think. Here's another pretty wicked tank that that I think some of the BMP drivers, like I said, this BMD4, that's a wreck of a tank. That thing is just, I mean, it'll just turn even heavy tanks into full, piles of garbage after a while. But man, look at this radical thing. It looks like some sort of a delivery vehicle for, Marines or something like that. I mean, how long it is with the sloped armor and whatnot. Man, if you're held down, I mean, you're just going to bounce shots from these sides, these front little, I don't know, whatever you want to call them, these little wings that are kind of popping out. Well, now they look pretty thin. I don't think they're going to be bouncing anything, but plenty of missiles. It's got that same gun, I believe, that is like the Terminator, which if you've seen it, it's deceptive. It looks tiny. You put some good ammo in it, boy, that thing just is a rapid fire rate and punches through lots of stuff. But boy, this thing may be a beast to drive, because it's just so long and so flat. I mean, from above it looks like the new iPhone 7. It's just, it's huge. So anyway, some pretty neat tanks that I'm planning on going with. This is kind of an interesting story. Back in the beta and in the alpha days, wow, 5 minutes in the queue. They did have a tier 6 Challenger. The Challenger, I forget what it was. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it was the Challenger Mark II or the Mark IV. I can't remember. No, the Challenger 2 is down here, so it had to have been the Challenger Mark IV. Yeah, it's tier 6, and it was so OP. You would own in the thing. So they literally took it out. The Challenger 5 is decent enough to go through until tier 7. You struggle a little bit with its lesser damage per minute, but all in all, a fairly surprisingly bouncy tank. Clearly, the T80s and the T90s that people are in. I've played against the T90S. I've not played against an Armada yet. The Armada is a pretty radical tank. Like I said, kind of a longer, low profile, tons of all armor and bounciness. I think down below here, it's even got some of these weird little torsion bar struts or little points on it that can bounce quite a bit. I've not played against one of those, but I will tell you that I have played against the T90MS, and this tank, once it's fully upgraded, is a beast. great big sloping armor onto the outside, fully auto loader gun. It's got all of this applique and well, all of the applique armor on it. Coincidentally, when you are playing against these, Armored Warfare does show graphically when you've blown their armor off. So if you hit this tank in the side and you hit it with heat or something else like that, and all it does is take off this piece of sacrificial armor, it does blow a hole through it, and now you can see through the track. So if you can aim through that same hole, guess what? You're doing damage. So it is kind of visually, it's nice because visually you can see where you can shoot the tank in a weak spot that has already been weakened by previous fire. So, but this tank, I mean, as far as the turret is concerned, I mean, what a beast. I mean, you can look at that thing and just, I mean, imagine trying to penetrate that thing. I mean, it's not a flat piece on it anywhere until you get to the side or finally get to the rear, and even the rear, you're shooting through a basket and a few other things. But coincidentally, this is the ammo, excuse me, this is not the ammo storage, this is the main storage. This is the Russian version. The main ammo storage is down below in a cylindrical, well, I think they call it a carousel. Anyway, that's where their ammo is, down there. Gosh, what else? Has anybody ever played and gone through the Zhang Fen line? I think, have I witnessed the Type 92? I have. I've played against the Type 90 II or Type 92. 90-2, and it's got a lot. It's flatter. I wouldn't say that it's a better tank, but it is a tank that I think has a little bit better fire rate and a little bit better maneuverability. I better research those. I've researched it before. This tank does have a bit of an advantage over the others in the same tier. So it's well worth it. But I've definitely played against these wheeled vehicles, the AMX 10 RCR, and if you're going to jump right into the game, you want to go right to tier 8, which I don't recommend. Number one, it's terribly expensive. 9,000 gold is a lot. Number two, you're jumping right into tier 8 matches, and you don't really have that much experience in the matches. But nonetheless, this is a very, very good starting point. This is a this is a tank that does a tremendous amount of damage, is very mobile, can get around and relocate and then punch and run like nobody. Well, 9 minutes, 36 seconds. I think 10 minutes is going to be my max today, and I've talked enough. Wolfie, thought about going down the BMP line. Like I said, I've already gone down the wheeled vehicles. These are really rough to play, but if you can get to the VBR, that's right. Going on to the Crab and finally to the Sphinx, we're talking about the highest DPS in the game, 8,209. The Crab beats that at almost 10,000 per minute, 9,711. Now, you're not going to penetrate every one of those rounds, clearly. And then this one, yeah, you can see it. 10,158 damage per minute. Highest DPS in the game, recon vehicles. But you have the lowest health and paper for armor. So HE just has to get close to you and blows your wheels off, stops you in your tracks, and then you're a two-shot wonder. So if you like that play style, you've got to be mobile. You've got to get past it. You've got to get moving around. So or you're going to get wasted. So seems like a lot of people went down the American line here. The Starship, you go to the XM1. Coincidentally, the XM1, I believe, is probably the most OP tank at tier 6. It's just bouncy as ever. As a matter of fact, I believe they had to actually nerf it just a little bit in order to make it a little bit more balanced. But boy, by the time you get to the Leo 2A7 and the XM1A3, these tanks are just they are beasts. The 2A6 has got a really great turret. They're a lot of fun as well. So, well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm having a difficult time trying to find a game with only 7 people in the queue for PvP. I'll jump back over into global operations again and see if there's more than 7. No, there's 1. Woohoo! 1 person. So clearly Armored Warfare has got to do a little more advertising and a few other things, and to be able to make this even well, to make it viable. I mean, there's not too many of us that can sit around and wait for 15-minute queue times just because there's not enough people. So I don't know. What do you think? Because the global operations mode has AI that spawn. Do you think in times like this, Armored Warfare should consider doing mostly AI? If you've watched some of my other streams or you've watched some of the other videos, the AI is not stupid. Yes, it's AI. You can usually beat it easily most of the time, but some of the times the AI gets you in a position where they're the lawnmower and you're the grass, man. They're going to cut you. They're going to cut you up, and you can't. There's nothing you can do about it. So I don't know. What do you think? Should they start using AI to cover for the low queue so that we can, those of us that are here in the beginning can kind of keep playing, or what? Anyway, guys, thanks so much for joining me today. I'm going to cut it quick, cut it off today because, well, clearly we can't even get a battle. So with 8 or 9 of us, now there's 6 of us, and over 11-minute queue times, just not something we can do. So anyway, thanks again for joining me. I really appreciate it. Stay tuned. I'm going to jump onto another game, and I'll be streaming, something else here shortly.